Now, the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is asking the Bank of Ghana to focus on building confidence in the financial sector. Leadership of the Business Association says its members who own financial institutions have been hit by what they're calling panic withdrawals as a result of a lack of confidence on the part of customers. The group is not the first to complain about how the banking crisis that has seen the licenses of 7 indigenous banks revoked is collapsing businesses. CEO of the AGI, Seth Chum Akwabwa, wants the Bank of Ghana to step in as a matter of urgency.
It's happening, and it's not just at the bank level, it's also at the savings and loans and even microfinancial institutions. But I think it can only be temporary, because eventually when you withdraw, where are you going to take the money to? You need to, you can't go and be putting money under your beds. So this situation is happening because of the negative, image that the banks have today. But I think that by and large, people will realize that those who are solid, they will still stand, and therefore there will be no problem doing business with them. So panic withdrawal may have happened, but I think that we expect Bank of Ghana to also come out and give more confidence to businesses and to individuals that the banking sector is not collapsing. We shouldn't collapse it. We cannot afford to collapse it anyway. So whatever it will take to bring confidence back, we have to do it. Those who are not doing well, fine. Of course, let's see how we can resolve that.
Is there any help, any support from AGI to its members, those in the financial sector, in terms of either streamlining, maybe not streamlining, but abiding or following the regulations? Because we've heard, for instance, about how the international banks, because they have bigger regulators, and sometimes the commitment is even harsher or stronger than what the Bank of Ghana would give. So they are able to meet whatever requirement there is. But with the local banks, it's almost like, oh, we're at home. Bank of Ghana is our own. So they don't take regulations serious. And that's why we're where we are with those banks that have collapsed. Do you help them in any way?
Yeah, whatever help you can give or we give is more of advisory, because we don't regulate the banks. Bank of Ghana is a regulator, and the banks are our members, and we actually appreciate the challenge that they go through. So we always so we can do advisory and then also do advocacy on their behalf. But then we are always very careful also. We don't advocate for people who are not going by the rules, because otherwise it becomes chaotic. You can't live in a country where the standards are there, the rules are there, the regulations are there, and you are flouting it. If you do that, you collapse the whole system. So even if you are a member and you don't go by the rules, we will not stand behind you and start making noise for you. But if you are you have a genuine challenge, of course the association is there to speak on your behalf, and indeed we've done that several times. That's why I'm saying that even for those who, as at now, have not been identified as having any challenge, why should we badmouth them? We should have confidence in doing business with them. And we did encourage our members to go and do business with those banks. The indigenous banks, some are very good, they are doing profitable business, they are doing genuine business. We should support them, and why not?
Mr. Chuma Akwabwa there speaks for the AGI. On his official Facebook page, President and Chairman of Group Indum, Dr. Papakwesi Indum, has also called for calm following the panic withdrawals that they're seeing, which is actually affecting these banks that Bank of Ghana has taken over. His company, Gold Coast Securities, JoyNews is also learning, has seen withdrawals in the sum of $1 billion cedis over the past 3 months. The multi-million-dollar businessman has underscored the need for the panic withdrawals to be checked before it generates into negative implications for the economy. According to him, this fear, if not checked, will eventually collapse the economy. And you've seen the things that he wrote on his Facebook. He's actually saying that government has committed itself to ensure the safety of deposit in the banking system. So deposit at regulated institutions are not at risk and will not be lost. Some sort of assurance to people who save in these indigenous banks. He's also saying that depositors have not lost any money, even when the bank has collapsed. Even more important, the Bank of Ghana is implementing measures to strengthen governance at these banks. So the point he's making basically is that as the Bank of Ghana works to instill this confidence back in people, do not panic because your monies are safe. Joining me in the studio now is assistant editor here at JoyNews, George Rafi. George, it's good to see you, except today I'm a bit taller than you, but that's okay. Let's talk about money matters now. The concerns that are being raised, to what extent are they really crying for attention?
Well, the reality on the ground is that from the commercial banks, from the savings and loans companies, from the microfinance, and even investment houses and finance houses, there have been lots of withdrawals. And these withdrawals are not the 100 Ghana cedis, the 200 Ghana cedis. These are withdrawals that somebody comes and tells the bank that I want to withdraw even like 500,000 that I have placed in your bank. Now, don't forget that for most of these institutions, these monies are not just lying in the vault, because how quickly you were able to turn around these funds would actually impact on your profit and your revenue. So for instance, if I place 100,000 with you, how am I able to quickly turn around these funds, make some money, and also ensure that anytime, if it's just savings, anytime you walk into that bank of yours, you can get access to your money. If they are investment, how do I do the calculations that if it's a 30-day investment, if it's a 1-month investment, if it's a 2-month investment, how do I make sure that at the time that you walk into the bank to redeem those investments of yours, you can get it? Now, what might have triggered this, if you engage industry people, had to do with the recent news or in the past news about the Bank of Ghana trying to collapse some banks. Some people thought
so
that,
hold on, let me get this clearly.
Several reasons have been given for.
Exactly, but is it because people are saying what people are saying that the Bank of Ghana is doing, or is it what the Bank of Ghana has actually done, which we believe is saving these banks from collapse?
Mix of issues, or more say a potpourri of things that you want to look at.
Because you know there are two separate scenarios here. There's a scenario where the Bank of Ghana has tried to save this bank from collapsing, and then there's a scenario that the whole news about the Bank of Ghana trying to save them, closing them down.
For the industry guys, for those who play in the financial space, they know what these banks are going through, even before the Bank of Ghana took that action. So you had a situation where for some of these banks, even among themselves, none of the banks wanted to lend. So for instance, your Bank A and Bank B, and the cameraman, the Bank C. Now, it got to a time that I didn't want to lend to you again. And this information serves through the system. People get to know that you are going through problems. And the perception was that if you go down, I cannot get access to my money. So people start withdrawing. Now, when I come and withdraw my money, I'll go and tell Antimans, are you aware that this bank is down? Go for your money. So there were these panic withdrawals just because of the fact that they were afraid that they're going to go down. Who was next to go down? And therefore, let me prevent that whole challenge that I have to go through in trying to withdraw my money from you. There are some also who would argue that the city might not be doing very well. And therefore, there's a perception that, can I take the city out and go and buy dollars? And at that way, my investment could be safe. So you had a situation where somebody argued that maybe there was too much cedis in circulation. We are yet to confirm that for the Bank of Ghana. Because the amount of cedis in circulation or currency in circulation should match economic activities.
Is there anything even like too much cedis in circulation?
Well, we need to confirm those data with the Bank of Ghana. But again, if you want to just observe the market, there's a perception, there's an argument that we have too much cedis in circulation. And therefore, if that doesn't balance with the economic activities, then people would then start taking those monies and say, okay, I want to avoid my money depreciating, going down, hedging it against inflation. Therefore, what's the same form of investment? I have to go and buy dollars. And that is why you've seen the cedi depreciating, dollar appreciating in value and all the rest, because people are taking these monies and they want to place it in dollar investment and even buy dollars and keep it under their bed. Some are also saying that it looks like the Bank of Ghana has become very tough, and therefore they're scrutinizing names behind some of these deposits. So people are quickly taking it out of the banking system, and I'm going to place it in dollar investment and buy dollars. So you have a situation where you engage some of these banks and savings and loans and say the person comes and says, listen, I know you're good, but I want my money back. And these withdrawals are over 1 million Ghana cedis, 2 million Ghana cedis. And therefore, it tells these are the big clients or the big businesses.
And this is affecting businesses, as according to the AGI, what the concerns that they're raising. What sort of measures, what sort of intervention?
Because, again, let's come back to how it's affecting, because the whole financial system it's like a merry-go-round thing. what they call
Intertwined.
financial intermediation.
Okay.
So you bring your money to me as a bank, 500,000 Ghana cedis. I take that money. I also on-lend to someone.
Okay.
That person does business with it.
So the moment I start taking back my money.
So when there isn't enough money in circulation or more liquid in circulation, then the bank can also not on-lend that money to someone, because in terms of the money that's supposed to go around, somebody has blocked that money from going around. Okay. And therefore, I would struggle again to on-lend that money to a businessman that would come to me.
Okay.
Again.
So that's how it's affecting.
That is how it's affecting, because if that
members.
Financial intimidation is not rolling and there's a blockage somewhere, then that would affect that bank from
It's like the
lending.
blood flow, right?
So
if the blood doesn't flow to other parts
it would
of the
affect
body,
some
then
of the
it affects
organs of your body. And therefore, that is what is happening right now.
Okay.
So in terms of policy interventions, again, you need some fresh capital in the system. Because it appears that the money is going somewhere. Someone was
but the Bank of Ghana says that it's put, actually government, yesterday President Akufo-Addo said that they've, this was over the weekend, they've pushed in about 12.7 billion cedis already. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, you've pushed in that money, but ask yourself, are those money staying in the banking system, or they're finding their way outside the banking system? And that is very critical, because the Bank of Ghana itself, when they actually do calculations of money circulation, they always admit that there's some amount of money outside the banking system. Right. What do? You can use hiking rates on several policy instruments out there in the banks to try and encourage people to bring their money back into the banking system.
So the Treasury bill, for example, which we've seen
could be
go
a
down,
factor that if you can offer a little bit of a high rate to people, that would motivate people to bring it in. Again, it's about stabilizing your local currency. Because whatever that you do, why are people motivated to keep their monies in dollars? If you go through the same Bank of Ghana data, it is clear that we understand that in terms of foreign currencies, which majority of them are in dollars, you're looking at gifting over $3 billion in terms of monies that are locked in personal accounts in some of these banks. So if I have a perception that your local currency is not going to be strong, and we are an import economy, I have to hedge against losing that value of the cedi that I hold with respect to inflation going up. Any wise business person would want to go and buy dollars to hedge against
options available to government. What you've just
well, government needs to look at ways where they can make the cedi investments attractive for people to place in their funds. You can use that. You can use the policy rate tool. You hike the cost of credit. In that way, it will encourage people and try and mop up what we'll call the excess cedis in circulation. Again, it's not just a monetary issue, but a fiscal issue as well. The government doesn't check its expenditure and pumps in more money as well, not matching with productive activities, then you have a problem there.
Then you have a problem. So it's not just about the Bank of Ghana saying, well, how about those who say, I mean, those of us who are not very good with economics.
Well, you don't need to be so good about economics.
Who just say, I mean, this is how I see it. Why don't we just print a lot of money? Print a lot of money and push it into the system.
And what I explained to you earlier on is that
and this is really the wayside way of thinking.
Money should have value. There should be a price for holding money. If the value becomes worthless, then you know what will happen. So you have to make sure that every money that is in circulation, there are economic activities backing that, so I can exchange that value. If you have too much money in circulation and we don't have economic activities backing that, then you see inflation soaring. Then you see price of goods going up. And the value becomes worthless. There's implications on the entire economy. There's implications on what you're earning right now as your take-home salary and what you can buy as well.
You can do with that money. That's a lot of information. You need some time to digest it. And I know that. George, thank you so much for that analysis. George Weafe is an assistant editor here with our business department, helping us understand the issues about the money that the Association of Ghanaian Industries say they are suffering and they're asking government to step in. Well, George is just taking us through some of the options available to government, and hopefully they take that, and hopefully we don't plunge further into the financial crisis.